Okay, so we're diving into this Daily Beast article, and it's pretty classic Trump in a way.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Detroit, Motor City, talking about American cars, wants to bring back the glory days of the auto industry, all that.
Right, right. Trying to rev up the crowd with those promises.
Exactly. But then it gets kind of interesting. He starts reminiscing about his Pontiac GTO.
Oh, yeah, I remember this. Not just any car story either.
No, not at all. This is like full-on image building.
He's painting this picture top down, blonde hair flying everywhere, saying he felt like the hottest guy around.
Oh, totally. Like straight out of an old movie or something.
Exactly. He's tapping into this whole muscle car mythology, youth power, that untamable kind of freedom.
Makes you wonder, though, is this just classic Trump showmanship? Or is there like a real strategy at play here?
Oh, it's definitely calculated. Don't forget, he's in Detroit, a city that's seen its ups and downs, but is still so deeply tied to the American dream.
That's true, yeah.
So when he's talking about roaring engines and that feeling of being unstoppable, he's speaking directly to those who are longing for that time when America felt invincible.
It's a powerful narrative, for
Mhm.
sure. Especially for a crowd that's maybe feeling left behind.
Absolutely. And that's what makes him so effective, even when he's, being Trump.
Right. Which brings us to the most surprising part. He starts talking about his hair.
Okay. Yeah. And not in the way you might expect.
No, not at all.
Right.
This isn't him boasting or anything. He actually makes fun of himself.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Saying he's more careful with it now, wants to cover up that little area. I mean, that's incredibly self-deprecating, especially for someone who's so image conscious.
It's true. Like he's deliberately poking fun at his own image. So why do you think he'd do that?
Well, it could be a few things. Maybe he's trying to appear more relatable, more human, like, hey, even I have insecurities.
That's interesting.
Because remember, this is a man who understands image maybe better than anyone. So by letting that mask slip, even for a second, he becomes more relatable, more human.
Okay, so he's playing a very calculated game here, projecting strength and confidence on one hand, but then showing this, like, unexpected vulnerability.
Exactly. It's disarming. He's basically saying, hey, I'm just one of you guys. But at the same time, he's still totally in control of how much he reveals.
That's what's so fascinating about this. It's just one speech, one story about a car, a quick comment about his hair. But it reveals so much about how he connects with people on this emotional level.
It really does. And, it speaks to a bigger point about how politicians use these seemingly personal anecdotes to advance their narrative.
Yeah.
These carefully crafted moments of vulnerability to connect with their audience on a deeper level.
It's masterful when you think about it.
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder how much of it is genuine.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something that's going to follow him every time he steps in front of a microphone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're left wondering what's really going on beneath the surface. Is this all calculated? Or are we seeing a glimpse of the real Donald Trump? A man wrestling with his own image, his own mortality, just like all of us.
It's a fascinating contradiction.
It really is. And it's something we're going to unpack even further as we dive deeper into this speech and all its implications.
Definitely. There's a lot more to uncover here. And, it's interesting you mentioned mortality and aging.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty hard to ignore the fact that Trump, he's getting up there in years.
That's true. I mean, if he wins this thing, he'd be the oldest president ever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's almost like he's wrestling with that right there in front of us.
Yeah.
Trying to project this image of strength. Like he's still that guy in the GTO.
Right.
But then he throws in those jokes, the self-deprecation, especially about his hair.
Right.
And it's like, you can't help but think he's got to be aware of how time is affecting him too.
Oh, absolutely. And remember, this is a man who's made his whole brand about image. So for him to make light of his appearance, even jokingly, that says a lot.
It does.
It's like he's trying to get ahead of the narrative, control how people see him as he gets older.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it plays into this whole nostalgia thing that he's always tapping into.
Oh, totally. This idea of looking back to a time when America was, at least in his view, stronger, prouder.
And blonder, right. Like he's always hearkening back to that.
Exactly. And he's very deliberately linking himself to that image. It's not just about making America great again. It's about making Trump great again. Turning back the clock, not just for the country, but for himself.
It's a potent message for sure, especially for those who feel like they've been left behind, forgotten.
Absolutely. They long for that simpler time, that sense of certainty.
Right.
And he taps into that.
But isn't there a danger in that? I mean, romanticizing the past like that? We can't forget the complexities, the problems that existed back then, too.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Nostalgia can be a very dangerous drug. It lets us gloss over the messy parts and create this, like, idealized version of the past that never actually existed.
Right.
And that's what's so worrying about how Trump uses it. It's not just a rose-tinted view of history, it's justification for his entire worldview.
Yeah. It's like he's created this whole other reality, one where the rules don't apply to him, where he can just rewrite history to fit his narrative.
And what's crazy is how many people buy into it.
I know. It's like, how long can that last?
Yeah.
Reality has a way of catching up, even with the best storytellers.
It's a tough balancing act, isn't it? I mean, on one hand, he's this strong man, larger than life,
Right.
invincible, right?
Yeah,
But then he lets that guard down, makes those jokes about getting older.
exactly. It's like he wants to hold on to that image of himself, from back in the day.
The GTO days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he knows he can't completely escape time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this weird tension between wanting to deny it and wanting to control how it looks. And that's where that GTO story really gets interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just some random memory he's pulling out. It's
Right.
like this symbol, of a time when he felt,
Powerful.
young on top.
Within America, too, right? He's tying those things together, for sure.
Exactly. And he's selling that feeling, that idea that we can go back to that.
Make America great again.
Right. Make Trump great again. Right. Turn back the clock.
100%. That's the pitch.
But it makes you wonder, can you really outrun time like that?
That's the question, isn't it?
I mean, it's a good story, but
It's a powerful illusion.
it is, yeah.
And it speaks to something really deep in us, this desire we all have to go back to that feeling of being young and free.
Absolutely.
But it's a fantasy.
Yeah, it is.
And I think ultimately that's what Trump is selling here, a fantasy.
So as we wrap up here,
Yeah.
think about this.
Okay.
Next time you hear a politician, any politician, promising to bring back the good old days,
Mm-hmm.
really listen to what they're saying and how they're saying it.
Because those little moments, those slips,
Yeah.
those can tell you more about what's really going on than you might think.
It's all a performance in a way, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
And the more we pay attention, the better we can see through it.
Exactly. And understand what's really at stake.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.